I'm Dr. Chris van Tulleken.
Hi everyone!
And I'm on a mission to understand why we're giving over 3 times more medicine to our kids today than we did 40 years ago.
It's alarming. It's just too much.
Last time, I helped a group of hyperactive kids
Who wants to come up?
learn to meditate as an alternative to pills.
Bring back the attention to breathing again.
For some, the results were remarkable.
He was amazing.
Wow.
The first drug-free school day in over a year.
So I can literally be myself, not take the tablet and be someone else.
And when parents discovered they were wasting too much of their cash on meds,
How long does it take us to buy this much Calpol? 1 day.
they started to change their habits.
With the little extra knowledge, it is in the bin.
Now, I want to look into one of the biggest health crises facing young people:
I spent most of my life in my room.
depression.
You found that only one of all these 14 antidepressants was better than taking a sugar pill.
And I'll discover the damage the pills we're giving our teenagers can sometimes do.
When you looked behind the data, this meant the kids were becoming suicidal.
I'll explore the 500% rise in prescriptions for a food allergy in babies.
We were just put through an absolute nightmare for no reason.
And ask if big business is coming between our children and their health.
In the eyes of lots of companies, she is a young customer. She's a market.
If I can find successful alternative treatments,
Go closer. Oh, I'm actually quite proud of myself.
can I get Britain's kids off the drugs they don't need? British teenagers are being given more and more antidepressant drugs every year. I've come to a school in Kent,
Come on through.
and I want to show a bunch of sixth formers just how quickly the number's going up.
So, what I need is a volunteer. What's your name?
Rhea.
Good for you. Big round of applause, I think. Thank you. Head into the... Ready?
Each ping pong ball represents 4 teenagers who've been prescribed antidepressants.
Charlotte, can I just pause you there? So the balls in this container are representing just over 30,000 children and adolescents who are taking antidepressant drugs.
It's scary.
You think that's scary? Why do you think it's scary, Finn?
It's just worrying.
But here's the thing about that number. That data is from 2005.
The next figures we have are for 10 years later.
Do it.
And they show there's been an explosion in the number of teens on antidepressants.
So this is 58,000. Are you surprised in 10 years we've almost doubled the number of children and adolescents getting a prescription for antidepressant drugs?
It's worrying.
Yeah, why has it got that bad?
That people become reliant on them as well.
If people are continuing to take these drugs and nothing's really changing and the numbers are just increasing, doesn't that kind of suggest that there's something wrong?
That's a sensible, intelligent answer, isn't it? And it might be a good thing. It might be because more people are getting diagnosed and effectively treated. Or it might reflect some things that I think might be problematic. Are we using drugs where other things might work better?
For anyone who's already taking antidepressants, it can be dangerous to stop suddenly. And any change of dose should only be made under medical supervision. I am really concerned, though, that almost doubling the amount of these drugs that we're prescribing to kids is not a long-term solution. To meet one of the 58,000 under-18s taking these pills, I've come to Essex.
Hi.
Jess is 15, and she's been on antidepressants for 8 months.
Do you spend a lot of time in this room?
Yeah. I spent most of my life in my room. Once I seal the door, that's it. I don't have to deal with reality anymore.
Oh, these are wonderful. Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah.
I can see why people get a little nervous. Can I,
Yeah.
You've got a really strong style.
Jess has struggled with anxiety since she was a child. And as she's got older, she's become depressed and has started self-harming.
So how is school? To ask you the question that every teenager hates.
It's really, really stressful. It's like the most stressful place for me to be.
Why?
Because I always feel trapped there. I haven't been in any lessons since nearly 10 months now, I think. It's classrooms, like, obviously you've got to fit like 30-odd kids in there, and everyone's sitting so close together. I feel really, really tense.
So you go into school, but you don't go into classrooms.
Yeah.
That is the most stressful situation you could put yourself in, where you're not engaging with school, you're not doing lessons, so the whole thing is sort of theatre. You just done your GCSEs, you're about to do them?
No, I was supposed to do mocks, but just because like it was too much stress for me, they just decided it wasn't a good idea.
Okay.
Jess has had counselling for some time, but as her self-harming got worse, she was prescribed an antidepressant called sertraline. She's on 100 milligrams a day, double the usual teenage dose. And like all drugs, it carries potential side effects.
The sertraline. I mean, they're not sugaring this pill, are they? If you are a young adult, information from clinical trials has shown an increased risk of suicidal behaviour in adults aged less than 25 years with psychiatric conditions who were treated with an antidepressant.
Yeah.
And you knew that, didn't you?
I was kind of a bit shocked. I was kind of like, oh, like I thought we were kind of meant to be preventing that. But then he was just like, oh yeah, by the way, you might have more suicidal thoughts.
Okay, so the suicidal thoughts, since you started the antidepressant, have they got less?
More.
Really?
Yeah.
I want to help Jess find a treatment free of side effects. But first, I'm interested in what her mum Dawn feels about the drugs.
At the end of the day, there is scientific proof. There is evidence to show that it does work and it is effective. Whereas, you're very much more from the school of thought of I feel you have the stigma of you shouldn't need tablets, and you should be able to just pull yourself together, and that's so outdated, I think.
I'd rather be off them when I'm on them. I kind of feel like I don't have control of myself. I'm having to like rely on something else to be able to deal with everything.
And you think you should be able to deal with things on your own?
Yeah.
Like most people, Jess's mum Dawn believes that there's scientific proof that these drugs help young people. I want to learn about a recent study that analyses all the available evidence on how effective they actually are in children and adolescents. I've come to the country's oldest university, Oxford, to speak to the lead author.
Hi, nice to meet you. Welcome.
Professor Andrea Cipriani is a psychiatrist and researcher.
I guess the first thing I want to ask you is, how do we think these drugs are working? What are they doing inside the brain?
We have many antidepressants on the market. The most frequently prescribed are the selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, the so-called SSRIs, and they work by increasing the level of this neurotransmitter called serotonin in the brain.
Professor Cipriani analysed every available study on 14 antidepressant drugs in young people.
Fluoxetine,
sertraline.
We also have amitriptyline, and
comparing them with each other and with a sugar pill called a placebo.
So your question was not how do the drugs work, it was do the drugs work?
In real practice.
Teenagers' brains are not the same as adult brains. The connections between the different parts are in the process of being rewired, so the drugs could affect young people differently.
So what did you find?
We found that only fluoxetine, on average, was better than placebo.
Only one of all these 14 antidepressants was better than taking a sugar pill?
Yes.
This drug, these do not work any better than sugar pills. Imipramine, clomipramine, sertraline. But we know that 40% of young people in the UK on antidepressants are on sertraline. So why would that be?
I can think of possible reasons. One is it might be that people have tried fluoxetine and this is the second line option. Or also we have some pretty robust data that show that sertraline is one of the best antidepressants in adults, and so these may be derived by the literature from adults.
It seems that we're ignoring the fact that teenage brains are different from adults. And even with the drug that did prove on average more effective than a sugar pill, fluoxetine or Prozac, Dr. Cipriani found the quality of the evidence was low.
The precision or the uncertainty around the estimate is pretty big. So worst case scenario is basically no different from placebo, slightly better but not significantly. Best case scenario is a huge effect of fluoxetine.
It's reasonable to put a question mark there.
Yes, because you don't know when you start the treatment whether the person taking fluoxetine will respond.
That's just terrifying, isn't it? You seem to be totally deluded that we have this range of possible treatments, when actually we maybe only have one drug that on average creates any benefit. And even that one drug we're a bit uncertain about.
It's made me more determined than ever to try and find drug-free treatments to help teenagers with depression. But first, I want to look into another medicine that's rise in use dwarfs even the doubling of antidepressants for teenagers. A very different kind of prescription for babies.
Hey, have you got any formula to treat cow's milk allergy?
Yes,
for a baby?
we do. Yes.
Can I see it?
Yes, of course.
So the reason I'm so interested in this kind of formula is because there's been such a dramatic increase in prescription.
In the 10 years to 2016, it went up by almost 500%.
Are you seeing these being prescribed more these days?
Yes.
Has it gone up?
I've seen an increasing demand. Nowadays, I can see every day I have a couple of prescriptions with one of these items.
Really? Whereas 5 years ago...
It's probably less than once a week.
Really? Okay, wow. These specialist formulas do not contain the protein from cow's milk, which is what causes the reaction in babies with cow's milk allergy.
What's the cost of these products?
They vary between £10–11 for this one and £30 for amino acid formulas.
Really?
Yes.
So this one's about twice as expensive as normal formula, and this one is, what, 6 times as expensive as a normal formula? The huge rise of this expensive formula means it's now costing the NHS over £64 million a year. Cow's milk allergy is unpleasant and can be very distressing for babies. But although only around 2% of babies suffer from the condition,
what are you chatting about?
Since I've become a dad, I keep on hearing about it.
This seems like quite a new thing to me. It's not something I'd ever heard of, but it's also something Lyra's grandparents weren't aware of. What is driving that? Is it a new epidemic of infants being allergic to cow's milk proteins, or is there some other force pushing that public awareness?
To find out more, I'm heading to an NHS study day in Newcastle. It's for GPs, health visitors and other staff to learn more about food allergy in babies, including cow's milk allergy.
There is a slightly odd thing here that we noticed, that it's sponsored by an educational grant from Nutricia, Early Life Nutrition, and the address for registration is someone's name @danon.com.
Danon Nutricia are a leading manufacturer of the specialist formula used to treat cow's milk allergy.
I guess I want to see how does this relationship between Danone, Nutricia and all the doctors and the people at this meeting work.
Danone have said that I can attend along with my film crew. But as I arrive,
we're outside the light sign.
I hear that Newcastle NHS are worried about the study day being on TV and have decided that we cannot film. So I go in alone.
Listen, great to see you.
You know, I got my little pack of bump here, and it was very subtle, but we do have a certain amount of advertising, what I would think of as sort of advertorial advertising, promotional stuff, you know, ads here, big posters, taster samples of the milk, alongside real, genuine experts in the field teaching NHS professionals. It's just muddling up advertising with science and healthcare. When I go to the GP, I think that the GP has got his knowledge from medical school and from academic journals, not from a company whose products he then ends up prescribing.
Cow's milk allergy can be hard to pinpoint. Some babies have a delayed response which happens hours or days after drinking formula containing cow's milk. To find out how doctors diagnose it, I've come to one of the country's largest allergy clinics for kids at St Mary's Hospital in London.
Hi, Bob. Hello, Chris. Great.
Leading specialist Dr. Robert Boyle shows me some interactive cow's milk allergy guidelines used by doctors.
Are these the go-to guidelines? Are these the guidelines that everyone does actually use?
They're the easiest guidelines to find, and they're wide.
Yeah, it's the first.
Yeah, it's the first one that comes up if you look for a milk allergy guideline on Google, and they're widely promoted and disseminated through healthcare education meetings. Yes.
Look at this. The website has been developed by infant nutrition specialists, Danone Nutricia Early Life Nutrition and Nutricia Advanced Medical Nutrition. But Danone is the company that makes
low allergy formula milks that are sold in the UK.
That feels like that relationship is
conflicted. Absolutely.
Conflicted, yeah. Can we do the guideline and see if my daughter has it?
Good idea.
It starts by saying a baby with cow's milk allergy may have one or often more than one of a long list of symptoms.
So of this list, colic, yes. Vomiting, yes. Food refusal or aversion, yes. Loose or frequent stools, yes, she poos lots. Constipation, maybe. Abdominal discomfort, yes, she cries and kind of hunches over.
And it's actually quite hard to find. It would be hard to find an infant who doesn't have any of the symptoms there.
It feels to me like the issue is that those symptom lists at the beginning of this are describing poorly children, certainly, but they're also describing normal infants.
Yes. I mean, it is notable that there are many more milk allergy guidelines published than guidelines for other types of food allergy. And many of them are supported directly or indirectly in some way by the infant formula industry, who obviously have a lot to gain from increased formula use.
If a doctor wants to work out if a formula-fed baby has cow's milk allergy, the guidelines say they should be given a trial of a specialist formula to make sure. So every time one of these babies is tested for the condition, the formula companies sell more product. Dr. Boyle suggests I meet a family who came to him for a second opinion after being prescribed the formula.
Hi. Is it Anna?
Yes, it is. Hi.
I'm Chris. Great to meet you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And this is Kaio.
This is Kaio.
Hi, little man. How you doing?
When Kaio developed eczema at 2 months, Anna took him to her GP and was told he would grow out of it, just like his sister had done. But soon afterwards, Kaio had a bump and Anna took him to the hospital.
He was seen by a paediatrician who saw the eczema on his chest and said, oh, he's got a milk allergy.
Okay, so he went in for an accident.
Yes.
And while he was there, incidentally,
yes.
he was diagnosed with a milk allergy because he had eczema.
Yeah, and I did say, I've been to the doctor already. I've been told he'll grow out of it. And she said, no, that's a milk allergy. It was very quick to diagnose. My first thought was, oh my goodness, I've been giving my child this poison that's making him react like this. I felt so guilty.
Did you?
Yeah, I felt awful.
In response to his eczema, Kaio was prescribed a specialist formula to replace his normal one.
I was shocked at the taste, and he wouldn't take it. He would just turn his head away. He would go to bed hungry. I was worrying about his weight, whether he's getting all the nutrients he should be getting.
More than half of his life has been spent struggling with this.
Yeah.
Desperate, Anna searched for other options.
So we went and we saw Dr. Robert Boyle, who was fantastic. And yeah, it turns out he hasn't got an allergy to cow's milk. And I was just so relieved that it wasn't milk. I was smiling, I was happy that I didn't have to push that formula on him.
You know what the really interesting thing is? You didn't go to a paediatrician and say, I'm worried that my child has cow's milk allergy. You got pushed down that road by the medical profession.
Yeah, we were just put through hell and an absolute nightmare for what I see now as no reason.
Kaio is now back on standard formula milk, and his eczema is being treated in the normal way. You have to remember that this whole nightmare was kicked off simply because Kaio had a diagnosis of eczema, which is something that 20% of babies have. And it makes me wonder if it's all because we're allowing the big formula companies to promote this condition, a condition that they profit from treating. And are we just making it more and more likely that an increasing number of families are going to end up in this kind of terrible situation? Danon sent us this response. Our aim is to support the timely diagnosis of cow's milk allergy to avoid babies and parents suffering. We are always open, ethical and transparent in our work with healthcare professionals. The MAP guidelines were developed by independent clinicians without industry funding. They were not designed with any commercial intent and do not favour any one brand. When it comes to Britain's teenagers, I want to understand why we're relying more and more on drugs to treat their mental health. 15-year-old Jess has now been taking her antidepressants for 9 months. In that time, the dose has been increased 3 times, while her symptoms have got gradually worse. I'm hoping I've found her an alternative treatment.
There's lots of evidence that doing physical things, especially outdoors, helps people with a range of mental health problems, and particularly depression. The first thing I need to do is find a way of getting Jess out of her house and getting her doing something. So how's it been going? I thought we could catch up before we leave.
It's been okay. They've increased my dosage of sertraline from 100 milligrams to 125 milligrams. I've kind of picked up the self-harming more.
So it doesn't really sound like things are going okay. It sounds to me like things are getting a bit worse.
Yeah. I get really anxious and really upset and panicky, and I just kind of give up.
And would you say that's been...
Yeah, it's been really tough. She really struggles with the overcrowdedness of the classroom, the noise in the classroom. But as time's gone on, that's just got harder and harder for her. We've just not managed to stay in school, have you?
How do you feel about going and doing this thing today? Do you get out into the countryside a lot?
Not really. I don't really go out at all, to be honest. So...
Right, be careful of the sunlight. You're not going to melt away.
Despite her mum's best efforts, trips out have become very rare for Jess.
So we're in this together. How are you feeling?
Quite nervous.
Quite nervous, okay. All I need you to do is get to the end of today. You don't have to get to the end of the day without being frightened. You just have to get to the end of the day.
I'm taking her to a local charity.
Is this it? Are you the Wilderness Foundation?
Therapist Joe Roberts uses being outdoors in wild spaces, along with one-to-one mentoring, to help kids with mental health and behavioural issues.
So we do lots in this wood, and I think this wood hopefully is somewhere that you will start to feel like we do about it. It's just peaceful.
I know this kind of therapy sounds a bit bizarre, but in a study by the University of Essex, 83% of the kids on the charity's leading scheme have successfully gone on to further education or employment.
Ellie, could you and Jess take on getting the fire going? And I've got cotton wool. What you're going to do is hold it in your thumb and you use all your strength to create a spark. Try it, see, work it out, see which way. Perfect. Okay, you're getting there. Try and get as big a spark off it as you can.
In this unthreatening natural environment,
Starts to hurt your hands.
It does. Take a break if you want one. Keep going, it's going to suddenly go.
It will.
Joe hopes that small challenges will help rebuild Jess's confidence.
You want that spark to hit the... Okay. Yes, you can. So just give your hands a bit of a break. It's so satisfying now.
Do you not feel a sense of like...
A little bit. Yeah. A little bit like a caveman.
Yeah, right.
Good job, team. Okay, so you have a go and I'll talk you through. Okay?
In the US, wilderness therapy has become widely accepted as an effective treatment for young people.
Okay, pull tight.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so you're good?
You know what the best thing was today? Is she broke her record for staying outdoors, outside of a building.
For 5 hours.
Well, she's still out there, now at like 6 hours.
Da-da-da. Oh my God. You're good, you're good.
When she lit the fire, and it was all I could do to stop myself grabbing it from her and showing her how to do it. And you were great. You were like, no, you let her struggle a bit, and she got there and she lit the fire.
And I'm glad we failed to start with, because then you never know the joy of the satisfaction of when it works. Yeah. We just gently nudge her into almost not realising her progress. What did I do well? What did I do that I didn't think I could do, that I have done? Keep giving her tasks that she'll get better and better at doing.
Jess's alternative therapy is underway. I just hope she sticks with it. But she's still on the antidepressants, so I want to find out more about how they can affect young people.
Hello, Chris. Hi, come in.
Great to see you.
Nice to meet
Thanks
you.
for having me.
I heard about Sarah because she'd written about the dangers of antidepressants and her daughter Rachel's experience.
Is that her there?
Yeah.
Like Jess, Rachel found life at secondary school difficult.
When she sort of hit GCSE studies, she hit a big wall and she got very stressed.
After she started self-harming, Rachel was referred to the Child and Adolescent Mental Health Services, or CAMS.
When they first talked to us about medication, they told us about the suicide risk. So I was frightened from the beginning.
The first drug that Rachel was prescribed was fluoxetine, often known as Prozac.
Is that her diary?
This is copies of her diary, which is it's a little bit hard to read.
Rachel's medication history, severe reaction after about 2 weeks. Went off the charts.
She started to have violent thoughts, disturbing dreams.
Shaking severely, nosebleeds.
She was shaking, her body was shaking, and the following night she tried to hang herself.
Rachel was immediately taken off the fluoxetine. But when she was still very low 9 months later, her doctors followed the guidelines and offered a different antidepressant. The one being taken by 40% of young people on SSRIs, including Jess. Sertraline.
I was worried because I knew about the reaction from the fluoxetine and I knew this was medication from the same family of drugs. However, Rachel herself, who was by now 16, was hoping upon hope for something that would help her.
She wanted the sertraline. She wanted something.
Yes.
So
she wanted something to work.
She was desperate.
She was desperate. I never actually believed she would do it.
Really?
but it was within 11 days of an increased dose of the sertraline that she took her own life.
I'm really sorry.
I don't have any anger or resentment towards the medical team because they were just following what they're supposed to do. You know, that it's all there in the nice pathways about what you're supposed to do if medication A fails, medication B, medication C. There was no malpractice. I think that the system is wrong. What happens when you get them to the doctor? They get pills.
Do you think you understood how dangerous it might be?
No.
Do you think we know all the dangers?
No, I don't think we do. No, I don't think we do. I don't think the doctors know. I don't think they would prescribe it if they knew.
It's hard to know if the drugs led to Rachel taking her life or not. Her inquest simply recorded her cause of death as suicide. But I feel I've got to find out more about the risks to teenagers.
Could we really be giving out these pills to thousands of children that aren't just ineffective, but are possibly really, really dangerous? Could that really be true?
Drug trials not only test a drug's effectiveness, but should also look for any harms they could cause. They're often run by the pharmaceutical companies themselves, though. So I've come to North Wales to meet someone more independent.
Hi,
David,
how are you?
hi. Thanks very much for seeing me.
Yep.
Dr. David Healy is a psychiatrist who's devoted 2 decades to researching the safety of the drugs he prescribes.
What's the key to understanding the harms done by these drugs?
What you have to do is you have to get to see the raw data behind the trial. And then you've got a chance of being able to work out what actually happened in the trial, what the good points behind the drug were, because there are some good points, and what the problems were.
The raw data is the detail of how a drug affects every patient in a scientific trial.
How easy is it to get hold of the raw data? How much raw data do we have for kids on antidepressants?
The only drug for which any raw data has been analysed is actually Seroxat.
Starting in 2004, a series of court cases questioned the published science supporting the drug Seroxat. The manufacturers were forced to open their files, and Dr. Healy and his team could examine how an antidepressant affects individual teenagers for the first time.
No one else ever has been able to get hold of the raw data. That's just 1 week of a healthy volunteer trial. If you're looking at 300 patients going through an 8-week trial, you might have 77,000 pages.
Wow. And what did that data then show?
Well, the original article, which was a 10-page article, had said the drug worked wonderfully well in this clinical trial and was extraordinarily safe. When we looked at it, we found that the drug didn't work, and the other aspect to it was anything but safe. In the first article, the authors had talked about some children becoming emotionally labile. When you looked behind the data, this meant the kids were becoming suicidal.
Really?
And not only that, there were 3 times more children becoming suicidal than the first article had even hinted about.
Research by Dr. Healy and others helped bring about a ban in prescribing Seroxat to under 18s in the UK. And its makers, GlaxoSmithKline, were ordered to pay $3 billion in penalties and fines for healthcare fraud.
What you need to appreciate is there's the published articles, there's the raw data, and in between there's a bunch of company reports which give you something closer to the raw data, and from those company reports it becomes clear that in the case of all the trials done in kids, that these drugs simply don't work for kids who are depressed, and that in every case the drugs cause more children to become suicidal on the active treatment than on placebo.
That's quite a strong claim. Can you back that up?
If what I was telling you was wrong, I'd be sued. I'd be out of business. They would sue the living daylights out of me. They haven't, because they know what I'm saying to you is exactly right.
If you're a young person taking antidepressants, it can be dangerous to suddenly stop. But if what Dr. Healy is saying is true, shouldn't we be more urgently questioning why nearly 60,000 under 18-year-olds are being prescribed these drugs?
I'm on my way to Dawn and Jess's, and I've had some really alarming news. I don't exactly know what's going on.
It's under a week since Jess's first session of wilderness therapy, and I'm worried it hasn't had the effect that I'd hoped for. It's just Dawn at home.
So what happened?
Unfortunately, Jess had an attempt on Tuesday at school.
A suicide attempt?
Yeah. Yeah, she took herself off to the girls' toilets during a lesson, pretending to everyone that she was just going to the toilet. And she just got completely overwhelmed and tried to strangle herself in the girls' toilets.
Jess's friend managed to talk her out of the cubicle before she hurt herself.
Okay, good boy.
Today, Jess is back at school, and she's due to be picked up after the first lesson. But then, she calls.
Hey, sweetheart, you all right? All right, you don't sound too good. Why are you out of the school then if you're not all right? Can you keep yourself safe until I get there?
Normally, Jess waits for her mum inside the building.
She's not walked out of school before.
You know where she is now?
I do,
Do you want
yeah.
me to keep chatting with her? Or?
No, that's okay.
You're so calm. I think if this
I
were
have
my...
to be, otherwise I'd go crazy. There she is, yeah.
How you doing? You all right? All right, okay. I'll hop in the back.
All right, honey.
What was happening at school, Jess?
It was physics. It was just really loud. But I just was like, no, I'm not doing this, so I just left. I went to the toilet.
Okay, I presume you've cut yourself, have you?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's critical that I understand why Jess's mood has crashed. We agree to go for a walk.
So tell me what happened.
It's just that everything just got too much. And then I just decided that I'd had enough and I didn't want to have to keep calming myself down all the time. I didn't want to have to hear all the thoughts in my head all the time.
And what stopped you dying?
My friend started shouting my name and I tried to ignore her because I just wanted to get it over and done with. But she just kept calling and calling.
I'm really sorry.
Jess's attempt was just a week after her dose of sertraline was increased. But it was also only 3 days after she started the wilderness therapy on Saturday.
How was Saturday?
Saturday was good. I really enjoyed it.
What was your favourite bit where you... Was there a bit where you felt happy?
I liked doing the fire, like starting the fire.
Yeah, we got there in the end, didn't we?
Yeah. I liked sitting in the hammocks, even though like it was scary to get in it at first because I thought it was going to break. I actually felt like really quite relaxed.
Really?
Yeah. I love being outside.
Should we keep doing it? Does it feel hopeful? Do we think it could be a bridge to getting better?
Yeah, I still want to keep doing it.
There's no guarantee wilderness therapy will work for Jess. But I'm very relieved to hear her being more positive.
Hi, hi.
I want to dig deeper into the dramatic rise in prescriptions for cow's milk allergy and find out whether big business is not only influencing doctors, but parents too.
I'm covered in slime.
Oh, sorry. So I've asked Clara, who runs my daughter's baby group, to get together some mums who are worried their babies may have the symptoms.
In the beginning, she had some eczema in her face. She started to vomit and to have frequent hiccups.
He just really doesn't enjoy feeding.
So it was sleeplessness, vomiting, discomfort, like the knees drawing up.
Yeah.
So how did you hear about it?
Just the old Googling, really. All the information that I got from the internet. No one explained me something about that.
But I've done a few Google searches and it actually suits the formula companies to create this buzz around cow's milk allergy because they produce hyperallergenic formulas.
And I'll probably look about 10 years older by then.
Back home, I decide to do some online research of my own.
So what happens if I Google cow's milk allergy? First hit, cowsmilkallergy.co.uk. Appears to be an advice site. Act on cow's milk allergy. What is it? Diagnosis. But at the bottom there is the Nutritia logo, the Danone Nutritia logo. And this, if you rummage a little bit, this site is provided by Nutritia. So this is a company website. This isn't an independent advice site at all. Okay. Then the next site is itcowsmilkallergy.co.uk. There we go, Mead Johnson, a company that makes baby formula. Now on this cowsmilkallergy.co.uk sites, there are some videos.
Cow's milk allergy is when your immune system, for reasons that we don't really understand, decides that it doesn't like cow's milk. And of course, cow's milk is the main component of baby formula.
Dr. Adam Fox. His name actually crops up in a few places. Dr. Fox has helped set up and is the director of this Allergy Academy, and the purpose of the Allergy Academy seems to be to educate healthcare professionals about allergies. But they're very open about their sponsors, and one of the founding sponsors was Danone Nutritia. So this starts to feel a little bit like what was happening in Newcastle, except it's on a massive scale, delivering education to over 10,000 delegates, as well as the many thousands who use our online content. Education being delivered to healthcare professionals about allergy, sponsored by the manufacturers of infant formula.
Dr. Fox is a consultant children's allergist. He's far from the only doctor that has close ties with big business.
Hi, Dr. Fox. Good to see you. I'm Chris.
But I want to hear how he squares this with making sure that the needs of patients, not companies, are always put first.
Cow's milk allergy is a hot topic. There's the education of the patients and the public information, and then there's the education of the doctors and the dietitian. And it seems to me, from looking at things, these are coming from sort of similar sources, helped a lot by industry sponsors. Is that right?
I think that's a very fair comment, and I think over the last few years there's been a pretty helpful collaboration between medical professionals and industry, because we've both got a very aligned aim. We both want infants who have got milk allergy to get their diagnosis as quickly and as early as possible, because if they have a delay in that diagnosis, it means kids being unnecessarily unwell for an extended period of time. Nobody wants that.
Provided, of course, the diagnosis is correct and we're not over-diagnosing children.
Absolutely.
So I want to come to the educational aims and things, because you run the Allergy Academy, is that right? Who funds the Allergy Academy?
So it's funded by a range of different sponsors. But the really important thing is whilst it's funded by those different sponsors, they have absolutely no editorial control. So the Allergy Academy runs predominantly lecture-based study days. You know, this can't be industry running events.
So at one of these education events, there'd be no advertising? There'd be no logo?
There would be logos, but they have to be in a separate area. They have to be distinct from the educational content, and that's sacrosanct. In the area
a separate room, but there would be product?
There wouldn't be product.
There'd be ads and reps?
Yeah, they'd have leaflets and reps, but absolutely separate.
How does that not influence? So if you've got people being educated but not influenced, but you've also got ads and reps, how do the ads and reps not influence the people being educated?
Well, look, I mean, this is the way educational events have worked. I'm not saying that it couldn't be better.
So I wonder really if the aims of an industry that profits from
more diagnosis and from selling products to sick children can really be aligned with those of sick children.
I agree, there's always a risk if you've got one party whose sole interest is making money, and regardless of the purity of the aims of the other party, there's always that risk that things will become misaligned. But I think where we're differing here is I'm a pragmatist, and I'm left with the option, and in fact...
Well, I'm a pragmatist too, and I have the evidence on my side of going, the evidence says that when we take money in any form from industry, it reduces the quality of our interaction with the patient.
And my experience as a physician is that when we're seeing children who require early diagnosis and aren't receiving that, I want to tell everybody about it.
Superficially, it seems like an appealing argument, doesn't it? The NHS is strapped for cash, why not let the companies pay for medical education? But the problem is, we know from decades of research about the pharmaceutical industry doing exactly this, that when companies educate doctors, it's in the best interests of the companies, not the patients. It's nearly a month since I last saw Jess.
I went out without my mum. We got back, I was like, oh my God, I didn't panic or anything.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm delighted she's been keeping up her wilderness therapy with Joe.
The thing is, the more positive you are in what you say you're setting out to do, the more the chance it's going to work. Almost.
Right, Jess. You can do this.
Hey?
This is a nice little dance there, Joe.
As her confidence builds, Jo starts introducing the things she finds difficult, like being surrounded by new people.
Hello, nice to meet you.
Thank you, guys, for coming down to play. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel really stressed, but then like it kind of helps a little bit.
Okay, in what way?
I don't know, to know that like maybe one day I might be able to deal with that.
Gradually, Jo feels Jess is ready to take what she's learnt in the woods back into normal life. Like dealing with strangers in busy shops.
Everything we're doing is just adding on, all right? And you're doing fine. So, was there anything you were looking for?
I think that they're so gorgeous.
Oh, it's really pretty.
Jess finds something she likes.
I think you deserve a treat.
But can she handle paying at the till?
I don't know what to say though.
There's nothing that can go wrong.
The camera hangs back to take off some of the pressure.
I don't have enough.
Just go. If you keep moving, then you don't have too much time to think about it.
£1 on your card then, lovely.
Yeah, thanks.
There you go, love.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
I started to like worry that I hadn't got my purse, that like I didn't have any money, like having to split it across my card and cash, and yeah, I just got really panicked.
You've done it. You did one of your worst fears.
I'm actually quite proud of myself that I've actually managed to do it. Yeah.
I'm really impressed at Jess's progress. But I'm still concerned that she and tens of thousands of other teenagers are taking antidepressants. They should, of course, seek help for depression. But they need the right treatment.
The more I think about it and look at it, there's good reason to think there are alternatives that are safe and effective. So why are we giving these drugs out in such huge quantities to so many children?
I'm in Warrington to meet the clinical lead for child and adolescent mental health services across all of Greater Manchester, Dr. Sandeep Renaut.
Hi, thanks very much for seeing me.
You're very welcome. Do come in.
Where should I go? Just over here?
Yes, absolutely.
From the experts that I've spoken to and looking at the evidence myself, it seems like antidepressants as a group of drugs, when used in children, there's not much evidence they work very well, and there's some well-founded concerns about harm. Do you think we are cautious enough about them?
So, specifically talking about depression in young people, we would always practice the NICE guidance. So we do have one medication that has some good evidence in the field when used with psychological therapies, fluoxetine, which people will have previously known as Prozac. But it's not in isolation, and it is absolutely not the first thing you would do. What our responsibility is as medical professionals in the field, I took my Hippocratic Oath to do this, is to be open, to be honest. This is our NICE guideline. This is the research in the field. How do you feel? What do you feel? And help to facilitate them making the best possible choice.
So you mentioned the Hippocratic Oath. Obviously, one of the things as doctors we all have to do is do no harm first. Bearing in mind that we are quite concerned about some potentially serious harms of these drugs when used in children, and that we think the alternatives, music therapy, creative arts, mindfulness, I don't think anyone seriously believes that they have a risk of increased suicidal thought. It doesn't feel like we're getting that balance right as a medical community.
Absolutely. We need to be open-minded in continuing to research the whole suite of interventions. But medication shouldn't be shoved away as we never do that. What I'm saying is that we do have a framework, and NICE guidance is that framework, and it's a good framework in terms of a guidance. It's not a mandate, it's a guideline, and it's formed on the best available evidence that we have.
What Dr. Renault's saying is that the reason we prescribe antidepressants in this way to children is because it's in the national guidelines, and those guidelines are built on the best available evidence. And that's the crux of my problem with this, is that the best available evidence, in my view, isn't very compelling. And there are real concerns about serious side effects. So if we want to avoid doing harm, surely we should be prioritising those treatments that we don't believe carry the same level of risk. I contacted NICE to speak to them about their guidelines. They wouldn't meet me, but they did say they're currently reviewing their guidance on treating depression in young people. So I'm really hoping they redress the balance and promote a wider range of drug-free treatments instead of pills. Jess has completed her therapy program. Today, she's facing one of her biggest fears.
Mum, I'm ready.
Her school feels she's now well enough to give her mock GCSEs a try.
Okay? Yeah.
Joe and I are here to support her to complete the exam.
If she can stick out the day at school, she's going to feel amazing, isn't she?
When you do something you think you can't do, you can never say again, I can't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, there's loads of people.
There's not loads of people.
There's loads of people.
And what are you nervous about?
Just maths in general.
General
Nervous.
fear of numbers and mathematics.
Yeah.
That's all right, lots of people have that.
She's on it. You're going to be fun.
Yeah.
To put it in perspective, a few months ago, Jess wouldn't have been at school today. She wouldn't have left the house today. So to be here, taking an exam, is pretty remarkable.
Just work your way down.
Sure.
I'm told I can go and see Jess.
Hello, hello.
There we are.
How did it go?
It was all right.
Have you quit early? Did you finish it?
Yeah, I finished it.
You finished it, that's awesome. In August, when we first met, it's now December, could you have done that?
What do you mean?
Could you have sat through that exam?
No. I didn't.
I'm pretty blown away, I really am. For me, the big thing you have left to do is to acknowledge when you do something well. You know? Most of life is simply turning up, putting your bum in the seat and giving it your best shot. If you can achieve that, everything else falls into place.
I think the therapy is helping me more than the drugs are because it's actually doing something practically. Like, you know, just because I take a drug doesn't mean that I know how to deal with a panic attack all of a sudden. I do kind of hope that they're going to eventually kind of start to take me off it and I won't have to be on such a high dose. I don't think I'm ready yet, but at some point in the near future, I hope I will be.
Sometimes we can take one step, it unlocks a new chapter, and everything changes. A few days after her mock exams, it's Jess's 16th birthday. And a few family and friends throw her a party.
It was actually just nice just being able to be around my friends, because, you know, I haven't been able to do that in quite a while. And it was kind of like the first glimpse of me being me without having to worry. And so I kind of found the me that's not always worried and not always stressed. And it felt really good.
After her GCSEs this summer, Jess is now planning to come off her antidepressants. Seeing what Jess has achieved in the last few months has been spectacular, and it makes me more convinced than ever that there are ways you can treat depression that work and that aren't drugs. And yet we continue to give antidepressants in huge quantities to thousands of children, despite weak evidence that they work well, despite concerns about serious side effects. And I think the reason for that is the same reason that we generally give our children too much medicine. It's because we allow companies to decide what information we get. And what we need to do is be way more skeptical, more questioning about what we believe about that information. Otherwise, we're going to let big business get between our children and their health.